The movie opens with a biker gang called the Outcasts. They ride across town back to their hideout downtown. They greet the security guard and walk in. They go in and check their meth stores. They have to hold masks to protect themselves. Unknown to them, the gang is trapped in a sting operation. The SWAT start to move in. The gang tries to fight back with guns and rifles, but they don't know that there is an undercover cop that infiltrated them. His name is Phil Broker. He begins fighting back and shooting gang members to protect the people. Two gangsters get away, Danny T and his son. Phil goes out and tries to help the police. He rides in trying to chase the gangsters that got away. He slides his motorcycle into the car and it makes the car explode. He goes to take the two gangsters out and arrests one, but the other one takes something out. The police start shooting him. They tell Phil it's protocol. Danny T, the gangster that survived, is distraught. His son had just been killed. He blames Phil. 2 years pass. We learn that Phil has a daughter. Her name is Maddie Broker and they have moved to a rural town without Wi-Fi. In the playground one day, Maddie is trying to go on the monkey bars above to climb across. She falls and a bully named Teddy Klum steals her hat. She warns him and then hits him. Phil gets a call from the school and he quickly leaves his co-worker Tito, asking if he can finish it himself because something urgent had come up at Maddie's school. When Phil arrives at the school, he meets a teacher named Susan. She explains the situation to Phil. When they are talking, they get interrupted by the Klum family. Cassidy threatens to kill Phil. When they leave to go home, they stumble into the sheriff. Jimmy Klum gets egged on by Cassidy to fight Phil because their son got beaten up badly. When Phil tells his daughter to get into the car, Jimmy tries to hit Phil from the back, but Phil is ready and blocks the hit and flips Jimmy to the ground, choking him. The sheriff quickly forces Phil off and Jimmy back to his car. When the Klum family starts going home, they decide to take a detour to their brother's house. They are trailed by Sheriff Keith. They try to convince Gator to deal with the Broker family by scaring them using force. Cassidy then begs Gator for a sash of drugs to soothe the pain. Phil regrets his actions and decides to apologize to Jimmy Klum. He goes to the workplace. Gator tells two of the goons to go to the same gas station. Phil is fueling up and they harass him. They try to take the fueling pump from him and switch off the fuel. When they try to grab him, he hits them and quickly decapacitates them easily. He then asks the mechanic if they are regulars at the store or if they live in the town. He says this is the first time he has seen them. Gator is in his meth lab when he gets a call from his goons saying that they had been beaten. He is surprised they lost to him. Gator then decides to find out more information on the Brokers. He sneaks into their property while they are out riding horses. He takes his pocket knife and slashes one of the tires. He then sneaks under the house into the scaffolding and finds a bunch of cabinets. He searches in them and finds files, some of which point to Phil's previous life as an undercover agent. Gator then steals the file and phones a call to a girl named Cheryl. She works as a waitress and we find out that she was an ex-Outcasts member. Gator tells Cheryl about the news and explains their plan to become rich by using the offering of Phil to gain access to global distribution. Cheryl then delivers the file to Works, an upper-level Outcasts member. Works then goes to prison to visit Danny T and ask him what he wants him to do with this. He says to finish the job. Meanwhile, Phil takes Maddie to school. They decide to apologize and Maddie invites Teddy to the birthday party on the weekend. Phil then decides to replace the shirt with blood on it. At work, one day Phil and Tito talk about the problem with the Klum family, mostly Gator. Tito tells Phil that Tito would do terrible things to scare people. He also tells Phil that Gator makes meth in a secret lab. Later, Cheryl meets with an Outcast member named Cyrus Hanks. She explains that she wants to be able to distribute meth as a result of giving up Phil. Cyrus doesn't promise anything and ensures that if she doesn't tell him, she will be dead too. At Maddie's birthday party, the whole class attends. Phil is seen talking to Susan, one of the school teachers. Maddie makes subtle suggestions that Phil likes her and should pursue her. He waves to Teddy and Cassidy as they leave the party, assuring that he won't get any trouble from them anymore. At night, just before Phil is about sleep, he gets a call from a DEA agent. They tell him about Gator and Cheryl and that Cheryl was an ex-Outcasts member. Phil then goes to Lime's cafe where he confronts Gator and Cheryl about the break-in inside his house and how the thief stole files and his pet. Gator responds with how he doesn't know who did it and how Maddie has such a strong father. Phil then leaves and finds a message from a DEA agent about Cheryl. Phil then decides to sneak into Gator's place, going through his backyard and subsequently sneaking into his warehouse and finding his lab. When Phil is in Gator's meth lab, he decides to get rid of everything. He sets gasoline on the tables and places tissues in the gasoline canisters. He places gasoline in the light bulbs, so when Gator turns it on, the lab explodes. When Phil is about to leave, he encounters one of Gator's goons. He knocks Phil out and drags his body away. When Phil comes to, he is being waterboarded, where they continuously dunk his head in the water to wake him up and suffocate him. He manages to fight off the people and escape with the cat. Phil returns home and quickly tells Maddie to start packing. He wants to leave the town because of the incidents that have happened, but Maddie wants to stay. The bikers arrive at Gator's property. Cyrus explains to Gator and Cheryl that they need to show them the exact directions to Phil's place and they will help them out then. But Gator says that he doesn't want to be a part of it and wants to be in a public place. Gator goes into town and decides to talk to Sheriff Keith about his successful business. Cyrus and his men then arrive at Phil's house. They begin to unload into the dock and slowly go onto the property. This is when Cyrus warns Cheryl that she must be there when they are back. Phil tells Maddie to go underneath the house and call 911 for her protection. Maddie quickly runs down and hides to conceal herself. She begins to dial, but that's when she sees the men starting to approach the house. When the men start to come to the front door, Phil is ready with a gun. The men aren't aware because it is night. A shootout begins. Some of the men chase after Maddie as she has started running through the forest. Phil quickly chases after them and shoots one of them dead. A man tackles over Phil when he's trying to save his daughter. A brawl starts and Maddie quickly runs to the deck where Cheryl is waiting. Phil quickly disarms Cyrus and kills him. Phil finds out that Cheryl had stolen Maddie by stuffing her into a compartment in the boat and sped off in a speedboat. When the police arrive on the scene, Phil receives a call from police officers. He quickly asks Maddie to describe the location of the place. He figures out that she is located in a place that is similar to Gator's place. He quickly takes a police car and speeds to Gator's residence. Gator then kidnaps Maddie and shoves her into a truck. He quickly speeds off. Just before Phil gets there, Phil catches him on the road and a chase pursues. Gator tries to drive off, but Phil catches up to him and tries to use his car to ram his. Then the officers tell them to close the bridge, but it is too late. Gator drives into the closing bridge and Phil follows. Phil's car flips and Gator walks up to it trying to finish Phil off, but Maddie distracts him, begging him to not kill him. In the nick of time, Phil gets up and disarms Gator and knocks him out. The end. Thank you for watching and consider subscribing for more.